Today on Nerd Talk, I wish to just talk about where I could see the Last of Us series going. I am a massive fan of The Last of Us. I loved the first game, I loved the second game, I loved the comic American Dream. This series is one of, if not my favourite game series. And whilst I know a lot of people didn't like the second game, or a decent amount of people, enough people did that it would get a third one. I think it's very likely we'll see a third game. So where could this be going? What could we see in a third game? Well, I feel that what it's kind of setting up and what we could see has been set up in this second game through a few scenes. I think a big thing we saw and will continue to see is Ellie getting darker and darker, at least near the beginning. As we started off with Ellie as the light-hearted character and Joel as the dark one who had lost everything. But we have slowly reached a point where we no longer have Joel to be the dark one. Ellie's become the dark one. She has ended up by the end of the second game. Sorry, I'm playing, just randomly playing the game in the background, and it's my first time seeing it in the 8-bit graphics. I think it's quite cool. Aside from that, we haven't seen a version of Ellie who has reached her deepest, darkest fear, which she did just at the end of the second game. If you recall from the first game, she stated her worst fear is being alone, losing everything and everyone leaving her or dying, which is where she's at the end of the second game. Dina and Tommy left her. Joel died. So she has reached the worst fear. What could that mean going forwards? I feel that in the third game, she'll very much play the Joel type of a character who lost everything, feels best on her own, but will be forced to join a group and accept that she's human. How could this come up? I feel one possibility, which is kind of set up in a dialogue in the second game, is when her and Joel are at the hotel, and it's brought up there's no one else like her. Maybe in the third game we find out there is another person like her. Maybe a child she has to protect like Joel protected her. I have considered maybe you would even do that as Lev, have Abby discover Lev's immune and have her send Lev off to find Ellie as she holds off the Fireflies who want to still make a cure. Well, that's a slight possibility, so that she's with someone like her. Or, in a darker twist, maybe she finally finds Dina after a couple of years, but by the time she finds Dina's dead, and all that's left is JJ, who then is like the Ellie of the story. We have a quite young JJ who Ellie has to protect and get back to Tommy and the community there. I feel that's one possibility for how it goes. I feel it's likely we'll see Ellie become a Joel type through this game and cheer up as Joel did over the first game. As for there are other characters we have to consider, such as, say, Tommy, and Tommy being Joel's brother who ended up not with a great relationship with Ellie by the end of the game because Ellie didn't originally go after Abby. I thought Tommy would probably have a weaker presence in this game than he did in the second game, probably more around what he had in the first game where he's only in it slightly, mainly because there's no reason for him to be in it. A character, however, I feel should have a strongish presence, even though fans didn't massively like the character, is Abby. I feel the fact that the Fireflies are still out there, and that's the big reveal from the end for Abby at the end of the game, is Abby and Lev are looking for Fireflies and they're still out there and they join the Fireflies. I feel we could see the Fireflies as the big antagonists going after Ellie. I don't exactly know how that would pan out. Maybe they found another doctor who can make the cure. But I think it'd just be interesting to see. I think it's just interesting because we had Ellie and Joel's final conversation in the game. Whilst this isn't the final conversation they had, the final one we see is them talking about how Joel would make the same choice if in the same situation, and how Ellie wouldn't want him to. I feel like that could play a significant role of seeing Ellie actually having to make that choice, and what that could mean. if it's rather over her life or another child's life, seeing Ellie have to choose between saving the world and saving someone close to her. It's the choice Joel made, which Ellie felt was wrong. I need to turn off these graphics actually if I'm going to play. Much as they look cool, it's impossible to play with. There we go. Yeah, I feel that's a possibility for how this game series goes, and I would like to see that, I think. I'm not sure how other fans feel, but I'd like to see an Ellie who has to make the choices Joel made, realise that what Joel did wasn't easy. How do I get past this again? I've completely forgotten how. Did I even go the right way? Yeah. Oh yeah, but yeah, I think it's just, it would make sense from the way the story's going, is you have an Ellie who's in the point Joel was at the end of that first game, or at the beginning of the first game, having to make the choice Joel made. Yeah. I think Abby, you rather, because of the fan's perception, you rather just go and kill her off at the beginning, do the whole idea that she realises the Fireflies aren't a good place for Lev. Or, why can I not remember what to do here? Or you do it so she is just a Firefly and ultimately dies at Tommy's hands, maybe. Just because Ellie doesn't want to do it and Tommy has reason to do it. Give Joel some level of justice. As for how Joel could return in some way, because Joel is the main captain of Last of Us, realistically. It's about him. The first game's about him. So how could he return? And it was just climbing over that, which I forgot. I feel the way you bring Joel back is you have, for the game, Ellie is haunted by like all the people she feels left or died, all the people she feels she failed. So you can have Joel, hallucinations of Joel there, and maybe they're guiding her, maybe they're not. I think it'd be interesting if they were guiding her and she's kind of talking to herself, but it's like people are there. Almost kind of like how Bill did. But you have it so she thinks Joel's there, you have it so Riley, I think, is another person you could do it with. She's just thinking they're all there still. Or, well, she knows they're not there, but they're still there trying to talk to her, trying to convince her to go back to Dina or something. As almost like her conscience telling her to do something, and her conscience is manifesting in the form of Joel and everyone else she's lost. I see it. I think that would be how you bring him back. Rather that, or you just do more flashbacks. But I think I'm kind of over the flashbacks. I think if you bring Joel back, it needs to be more interesting than just flashbacks.
You think this guy's connected to the girl from the school?
That'd be a hell of a coincidence if they weren't.
I hate these small groups.
In that building!
So yeah, I said it'd be interesting to know what other people think about this. Would other people want to see this kind of things? If they did do a third one, what story would you like to see? Because I think you want Ellie to have a reason to want to survive again, which she's kind of lost. Because Ellie was at one point a happy character. Or you just do a prequel, you do a 1.5 style game, so Joel's still there alive. And you... It's before it's before his death. You have just raiders coming. It's a story of raiders attacking the camp or whatever, and you have Joel and Tommy and Ellie have to fight off the raiders. But I said I don't think that's as interesting to me. I know I think people said that if they do another one, they would want it to be a prequel because Joel's the main character and all that. But I would much rather see Ellie's story continued than Joel's. But that's just my personal opinion. I think there's many ways to go with this. Many things you could do with these characters. Some better than others. Maybe a way to take it, and this is just sprung to mind, is you give a proper big bad. So far, none of these games have had a you've had kind of big bads, but instead of doing this, they're kind of good, or they have a story arc where they're good, you just do someone who is introduced. Kind of like how Abby almost was a Negan type. Character's introduced and you think, I kind of just want him dead, because when Negan's introduced to the Walking Dead, he just shows up and murders the fan favorite character. Maybe that's what you do. You have a Negan type show up, just someone who's strong, intimidating, and has a maybe they are even raiders and they're raiding Jackson, and those are just a big bad, and they maybe do a subplot of the Fireflies, or it starts off as just raiders who are attacking Jackson, and it goes into the Firefly storyline. But I think that something none of these games have had is someone who is just seen as bad for the sake. We've got bad people and people who we don't have any reason to think are good, but no overarching bad people because they try to make us redeem Abby and make her seem like she wasn't that bad. We see any the raiders in the first game never really get a personality, neither do any of the cannibals other than the one, who even then is killed off quite quickly. Could be interesting to see an overarching villain of the story. Or even I'd like to see more of, whilst the scars are gone, that concept of a religious element to the apocalypse. Maybe people who view the zombies as a religious symbol to follow. Things like this I think could be cool. Like the concept that maybe it's just a war of communities as it's years later. Resources are so much more scarce. It's just wars, this just war of loads of different communities. You have Jackson, and just the people of Jackson is the most normal. You have the Fireflies who are still looking to some kind of cure. And then you have this almost cult-like thing. I'm picturing it almost like half of like the Scars in the second game, and almost half Whisperer thing where they kind of worship the dead and even do the whole concept that they wear like the skin of clickers or whatever. And it's just this weird cult-like thing. I think that could be an interesting way to take it. It's kind of where I wish The Walking Dead took Whisperers, or at least for the TV show. Would other people find this stuff interesting? What would other people find interesting? I'd love to know. But yeah, I think that those are a few possible ways you take this game, because you need to give Ellie a reason to survive at this point. At this point, Ellie is a depressed character. You don't really want to just follow a story of her, because she almost feels like the second game made her out to be the bad guy, which she kind of, the whole point, obviously, her and Abby are doing basically the same thing, looking for revenge. But you don't really want your main character to be a bad guy. There's a reason The Walking Dead doesn't choose to make Rick seem ultimately evil, or give him Rick seem good, because he's always protecting his family. Same concept with Joel. Every awful thing Joel did was all to protect Ellie in that first game. So it makes it better. And I think that's what you need for Ellie, is you give her something worth fighting for. The fact that she chose to leave Dina and Dina's kid makes it seem much worse. So I think that's the point you try and change. Would that be interesting? I'd love to know what people think, and if you would love to hear more of what I think about the last of the series and where it could go, leave comments for suggestions of what I could talk about. I'm thinking of talking about what could have happened in terms of time jumps we've missed, and just other characters and how we could possibly see characters, say like Bill, return. The character who I kind of wish returned in the second game, because I thought it's quite interesting. I also plan on talking about other topics such as The Walking Dead and the Marvel Universe. If you wish to stay around, feel free to subscribe and so to see more future content. As I said, it won't all be Last of Us themed. It will be all sorts of things. If there's it'll be and possibly other things, character breakdowns, talks obviously about how future installments of things could go. Well, over time. But with that, I don't think there's anything else to talk about this. What at this point in time I feel the third game could go. I said love to hear how you think the third game could go, or what things you'd love to see in it. But for now, I think that's all. Thank you for watching the Dead Talk. Thank you for watching the Nerd Talk. Hope you stick around to watch more. Bye.